What's up, everybody? Ben Rasa and Matt Gajewski here for Odd Shopper, and we are back talking all things college football. It is officially the best part of the college football season. We got the New Year's Day bowls, we've got the playoff games, and we are here to break down our favorite bets. We've got some good ones on the schedule, Matt. I know it's been a little rocky. I know you're worried about games getting canceled, but you know what? So far, so good. Knock on wood that I think a lot of these games look like they're in pretty good shape to actually play.
I think so too. We're a couple weeks into this current surge. So I think the early bowl games were really affected. Teams didn't really know what was coming, but now like the playoffs, these teams are aware, hopefully taking extra precautions so these games actually get played. Because we're in the final stretch here. We don't have a lot of college football left, but fortunately we do have some of the best ahead of us, and I'm very excited for it.
Me too. No doubt about it. It's going to be fantastic. And again, if you are new to this channel, welcome aboard. Super exciting time here. We are building up quickly. If you could hit that like button, subscribe, really help us out. And stay tuned for more VODs from college football to the NFL to the NBA, and certainly for all the tools on Odd Shopper. We got a bunch of games to get to. We've got some real good bets, and it's time to dive in. And I couldn't be happier that our first bet on New Year's Day, 1 o'clock Eastern, the Citrus Bowl, Kentucky and Iowa. What a dream matchup. For anyone that watches this channel and watches us knows that we are both big Kentucky fans and noted Iowa haters. It's got to be all Wildcats for us here. I am laying the points with Kentucky. When we bet them, they weren't even they were actually underdogs. Talk to me about this matchup and what you want to do here.
When it opened, Kentucky was an underdog. I took them +1 right away. But this isn't a spot where I think you missed the boat. I think you can still take Kentucky. Right now, they are -3 playing Iowa. First of all, when we want to talk opt-outs, it's a big situation for bowl season. Iowa has some. Tyler Goodson's not going to play in this game. He's their premier back. Looks like Linderbaum might play in the game. I think he probably will. He isn't declared for the draft yet. But Kentucky doesn't have any opt-outs. And again, that doesn't mean we won't get some last minute. There's a chance. We have already this bowl season. But it appears that they are going to be fairly intact. And when we look at how these teams match up stylistically, Iowa's defense has faltered a little bit of late. They've allowed at least 20 points in 4 straight games. And I want to highlight that's in the Big Ten West. When you're playing very run-heavy, slow teams, it's probably like allowing 30 points in other conferences. And Kentucky's a team that can exploit that. A lot of how Iowa's lost recently has been against the run. Kentucky wins up front with their offensive line and their run game. And then when they do throw the ball, you have premier playmakers like Wan'Dale Robinson, Will Levis at quarterback, who's been efficient enough. With Robinson expected to play in this game in a fully intact Kentucky offense, it's hard for me to see Iowa playing from behind as they've struggled to do all year with Petrus, a makeshift offensive line that outside of Linderbaum replaced 4 starters, and they've played poorly throughout the year. Part of the reason why running back Tyler Goodson's been so inefficient, and even with Goodson himself opting out, you're losing a strong playmaker in the receiving game out of the backfield. And we just don't know if the backups can replicate that. So to me, it appears that Kentucky's still undervalued. I'm honestly considering betting this again and maybe with an alternate spread.
All systems go for Kentucky. I think you can confidently lay these points. Anything around 3 is good. I was 112th in passing yards per attempt. Their offensive line is a mess. Their All-American center, he may play, and then the offensive line is still a mess. If he sits, it's now even worse. And on the Kentucky side, you mentioned they know what they're doing. Very dynamic. Levis, their quarterback, should be there he's going to be there. I don't know why he wouldn't be. And they look pretty much intact. So anything else before we move to the next game? I think this is a fantastic spot.
I think we hit it all.
Poor Iowa. Just what a perfect matchup. But all right, after we cash that, we move on to the Sugar Bowl. Later in the day, we've got Ole Miss and Baylor. Ole Miss is a 1-point favorite. Games in New Orleans. And the crazy thing here, and we talked about this on Betting You, and if you want a full breakdown of all the games on New Year's Day, you can go check out Betting You anywhere you get your podcasts. Matt Corral has been adamant that he will be there for Ole Miss, and I did not think that would be the case. That is a huge upgrade and a huge, huge storyline in this game.
Yep, credit to Lane Kiffin, the program he's built. His players want to get out there for him and for each other, so that's positive to see. And I know the people, the old timers, are going to love that he's going out there for his team. But Corral being healthy, you can't really overstate how impactful that is to this Ole Miss offense. And interestingly, unlike most programs right now, Ole Miss dealt with a lot of their injuries earlier in the year, and they've had the ability to return some of these guys. Dontario Drummond's missed time. Jonathan Mingo missed multiple games with a foot injury. He's since returned 7 targets in their most recent contest. Ole Miss not only doesn't have a ton of opt-outs, but you're dealing with a situation where a lot of their playmakers are actually coming back healthy for this game. And on the other side, Baylor, they're a team that's played slow and run heavy all year. We know Ole Miss is going to score points. Is this team built to play from behind with their run-first approach? To me, I don't see it that way. I do think Baylor can score some points here, but in the shootout style offense that Ole Miss is going to play, I'm not sure how this Baylor team can keep up.
Well said. Ole Miss for me. I will lay that point. This is a team that, so they had their bye after week 3. They played 9 straight weeks in the SEC, and they felt that attrition. Corral took a ton of hits. He was running the ball often. Their receivers were decimated. And again, they did not have a bye week that entire span at the beginning from 10-2 onward. The rest, I think, really helps them. I think they're a better team to begin with. And the fact that their quarterback is going to be there is a massive upgrade. Baylor's not a team I think can play from behind. I thought the spread would be more to the between 3 and 7, not a 1-point spread with Corral there. I love Kentucky. That's my favorite bet. Ole Miss a second, though. I really think this is a good spot. I lean them all the way. So we have done that. And I do want to say we're going to get to the playoff games in a second. But BetMGM powering this VOD, and we appreciate them. If you are a new user over there and you're looking to sign up, use the link in the description of this video. Deposit $10 or more. You're going to get a risk-free bet of up to $1,000 plus 3 free months of Awesemo Plus Platinum that covers you all sports from the betting to the DFS. So it's not just college football, NFL, NBA, PGA, NHL, esports. Why not? Whatever you want, we've got here at Awesemo. It is a great, great platform. And of course, go to oddshopper.com for all those tools on the betting side. Let's step back. Let's go to New Year's Eve. The 2 playoff games, to me, these are not as good. I want to be clear because we're trying to provide value. Not as good betting games, but I still want to talk to you about them. First one, Cincinnati and Alabama. Alabama's a 13.5-point favorite, 57.5-point total. Did the Tide just absolutely roll over the team that most people think shouldn't be there?
This is actually a bet I like a little bit. I think I like it a lot more than you. I'm willing to lay the points with Alabama here, mainly on the basis of level of competition. So we've seen Cincinnati play a much weaker schedule in the AAC. We've seen them falter multiple times with single-digit wins against teams like Tulsa and Navy, and that's an issue for me in this spot, going against Alabama, by far the most difficult team they faced all year. A couple matchup advantages towards the Crimson Tide. First of all, Cincinnati wins on defense with their secondary play and their edge rush. They're actually a little bit weaker against the run. I think that's going to be an issue against Brian Robinson. But then we've seen the way their secondary is built, that you can be exploited in the middle of the field at times, mainly with tight ends. Michael Mayer went 8 for 93 against them. And Alabama has the player personnel with multiple tight ends than like a Julio Billingsley and a Cameron Latou to take advantage of that. And then if Alabama does get up in the game, and this isn't to say Cincinnati cannot play from behind, they just haven't needed to all year. How does this offense look when they're challenged? If Alabama gets up to like a 2-score lead, is Cincinnati the caliber offense where they can come from behind and try to kind of mitigate the difference in points? Can they actually put points on the board? Or are they going to fold under pressure? And I think with the Alabama pass rush, that's another matchup that the Crimson Tide can exploit. Cincinnati's offensive line has actually been a little bit suspect, below average per Pro Football Focus, and we know the Crimson Tide have a strong pass rush here. I think there's a lot of advantages that point to Alabama, and I actually like this bet a little bit here. I'm willing to lay the 13 points.
Definitely don't like it as much as you, but having said that, I have not bet Cincinnati, and I don't think I'm going to. Probably going to stay neutral here, so I'll defer to you. I agree with a lot of the points, particularly with Brian Robinson. I worry about Cincinnati being able to handle them up front. I do think, and this is where we differ, that Cincinnati's secondary will be able to cause some problems for Alabama. Now, if they go to 12 personnel and Billingsley turns out to be as dynamic as Mayer, yeah, there's going to be some issues potentially. I think that is where Cincinnati's going to have to win. They're going to have to cause pressure on Bryce Young and force them into an uncomfortable game. If Ritter and Ford can get going on the other side and the game goes under the total, I think Cincinnati has a fighting shot. Not putting my money where my mouth is on this one because I do think there's a lot of ways the game gets out of hand. If the game gets out of hand, this has 45-10 written all over it. I'll be the first to admit that. I just am not sure we see that. I probably will look to a live bet here in one form or another. The second game, this one, Matt, is really hard to talk about. I want to be clear for people, and that is why you want to follow Matt on Twitter at Matt_Gajewski. You can follow me at JazzRazDFS. Georgia has COVID issues, and they are probably the biggest unknown of all the teams we've talked about so far. What do you do with a situation like this? They're still 7.5-point favorite against Michigan.
Right. And Georgia's the only team publicly we know has COVID.
Yeah.
I think there's a chance that all of them are dealing with COVID, some of them. But Georgia, we know for a fact that they do, and it's been reflected in the spread. We've seen the line crater a little bit. I'm seeing -7.5 right now. This is upwards of 10 in some spots in favor of Georgia, 9.5 at a lot of places before this news. And it's also affected some marquee players. Like JT Daniels has already had it and subsequently tested negative. Players like, we want to talk about receivers. Pickens, I think George Pickens is a guy who was affected, and now he had to fly late to visit the team. And it's not always, like players missing games because of COVID, but if you miss practice time as well, you're not on the practice field. In the NFL, we've seen that negatively affect player performance. It's different when you have to implement game plans via Zoom than when you're actually on the practice field. And again, this hasn't affected college mainly because the surge happened post regular season. But with Georgia, it's just a huge unknown here. So I don't have a bet currently, but I think you feel a little stronger about this game than I do.
I do. I like Michigan. Again, I'm taking a shot here. Michigan was a team I backed kind of leading to the end of the year, and I look at them, and I think the knock, kind of like some of these other teams, and Georgia's in this bucket too. If they fall behind, what happens? But Michigan has shown that they can run on very quality teams, from Michigan State to Ohio State. I think Cade McNamara, their quarterback, is better than I thought. It's not like he can't come back. And then I look at Michigan's defense, very solid across the board. So Georgia, listen, toughest matchup Michigan's faced, no doubt about it. If they can run on Georgia, they can run on literally any team in the country. But to me, I think I have a couple things working. One, I'm getting 7.5 or 8.5 points. So right there, I'm getting some reprieve because of that. Two, I think there's a bigger chance that Georgia is decimated by COVID than Michigan at this point, causing the spread to dip under 7, and I'm going to capture that value there. And then three, Michigan is playing absolutely the best football they've played all year. Georgia, we don't know where they're at. They were obviously humbled by Alabama. That was not their best game. They're a better team than that. There's no doubt in my mind. They had some breakdowns. Stetson Bennett, we're going to see. In his one opportunity to lead them back, he did not really get it done. He wasn't awful, but he certainly wasn't great. I think Michigan is much more live than Cincinnati, that's for sure, to pull the upset here. I think they have an opportunity there. I'm gonna back the Wolverines. Got to ride with my boys to close this one out. So Matt, there we've got it. We've got Kentucky, really good spot. We've got Ole Miss. You're leaning Alabama. I'm leaving Michigan. Great opportunities. Again, stay tuned for more late breaking news that's going to have, and stay tuned for more college football content here at Odd Chopper. Thanks to BetMGM. Thanks to you guys for watching. Hit that like button and subscribe on your way out. Good luck, friends. Enjoy these games, and we will be back to talk with you soon.